The following is a presentation of the ForceCenter podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is the ForceCenter podcast feed, and this episode is part 8 of the Magic of Lightsaber Fights. I love lightsabers, I love magic, I love the number 8, so this is going to be a great episode. I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
Ooh, number 8 is one of my favorite numbers as well, and we're here in episode 8 to talk about episode 9. Don't worry, I get confused all the time, but we are here to dive on in. Gonna be a lot of fun.
Part 8 about 2 fights in 9. This is just really a math lover's dream, a number lover's dream. We want to let you know, as always, that today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Whatever mysterious player you have, you can listen to books. We are recommending The Princess and the Scoundrel by Beth Revis. Very excited to finish this one up and have a big discussion about it. So if you would like to give it a listen before our discussion, you can download that free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. One more time, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for a free audio book. Ken, I know audiobooks aren't your favorite, but do you ever read a book and then are tempted to hear it just like you want to hear like a specific chunk of it?
That's actually excellent. There's a part of me that might try that for, when I do I'd like to reread Catalyst, for example. It's like, maybe I'll just get the audiobook version and just kind of have it in my ears while I'm in the backyard or going for a walk or a hike. And yeah, I'm thinking of trying that. So there you go. I'm going to use audibletrial.com/ForceCenter to try that. That sounded like a pre-planned spot, but it wasn't.
It wasn't. Yeah, I might do the same for Master and Apprentice because I want to revisit Master and Apprentice and I want to hear Rael Averross's voice.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've heard exciting, thrilling things.
Yeah.
And speaking of exciting and thrilling, we are going to get into the magic of lightsaber fights. We are going to the Rise of Skywalker. This has been a ton of fun to do this longer than we planned series. We were really trying to take a step back and be able to really spend time on each individual conflict instead of rushing through them all. So one of the reasons we've been wanting to talk about this is just that lightsaber fights are such a key part to the thrill and the core themes of Star Wars. We have discussed the original trilogy, the prequel battles, and the sequel battles all the way up to where we are now, Rey and Kylo's 2 battles in The Rise of Skywalker, a location switching dyad duel, and a final showdown on the ruins of the Death Star. Ken, I have a big picture question that I wrote down for you, but then I thought of another one right now that I wanted to ask you. How much are you getting out of going through each fight in the chronological release order? Is it making you see the fights differently? Is it sort of adding up all the things that we're talking about and changing the way you view the fights?
Yeah, and changing and sometimes confirming thoughts, right? Especially for maybe more recent fights and fights that you and I have had that chance to go into on ForceCenter, whether it's deep dives or reviews or whatnot. So much like the Clone Wars report, it's just fun as a Star Wars fan to go back to familiar territory, just kind of revisit how you took it in then and what you think about it now. And when you have that pause button up where you're down to frames, not just to look at the action, but like the actors' faces to get what's at play in the fights. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. I've really been getting a lot out of some of it. Like you say, is like, yeah, absolute confirmation. It's really fun to look at it and go like, yeah, that's what I really feel. What words do I want to articulate that to share those thoughts? And then other moments popping out and just kind of seeing over the span of time, not only the kind of the surface level differences between the lightsaber fights that we all, can see pretty fast of like, hey, they're flipping and spinning or they're not. But a little bit more like the way the lightsaber fights are presented, like how heroic are they? How big of a change is going to be made based on who wins or who loses? How much of it is a skirmish versus a full-fledged battle? Some of that stuff I've really been enjoying diving into and was thinking about as we go into these, because I think these are kind of different lightsaber fights. So that's what I wanted to ask you about the big picture of these 2 fights. How do you feel about the balance of the old and the new? In The Last Jedi, we had 2 sort of non-traditional, in various ways, lightsaber conflicts. You can go listen to that Last Jedi episode for more thoughts on that. So in some ways, Rise of Skywalker, we're back to classic lightsaber
Mhm.
on lightsaber clashes of fate from, two people who are very involved with one another. But there are also just a lot of twists in these fights. So what is the balance for you?
I think it's a wonderful balance. Yeah, no, go back and listen to the Last Jedi fight, and definitely, folks, as comments will tell you, especially on YouTube side, have some thoughts about whether those are lightsaber fights or not. And we definitely firmly stand on the side that those were, but we also really understand that the Last Jedi lightsaber fights were very different and tried to do different things, and maybe that doesn't always hit with you. And I did take these fights as a hey, you felt the Last Jedi duels were a bit different. We've got some classics for you, which is not to suggest that JJ went into Reddit. I just think it suggests that Rise of Skywalker really wanted to go to what you always love talking about, Joseph, the serial adventure DNA, because it's there in Rise from the very beginning, all through it. And these lightsaber fights do that. And it leads to what you're asking about the balance. I think the new comes rushing in. I was going to say like water on a Star Destroyer floor, but maybe more like berries strewn on that Star Destroyer floor. Or the Death Star ruin is what I should say. But yeah, no, it's a great balance. It's a good play of what got us here. It's a new look, a new idea, even just a simple concept of, I don't know, let's have them fight over water. And then we can get into what that means, but that's just a cool start. And I really do enjoy the balance of these two fights.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot in Rise of Skywalker that, in my opinion, is more fresh and surprising than people maybe give it credit for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there is some ideas in it and some images and everything that are trying to be Star Wars poetry and that are trying to kind of like bring everything home because it's the end of this trilogy and the end of this saga. But I think there's some like fun new things. So on the surface, you can be like, oh yeah, we're kind of back to the basics. It's the person coded as the main good guy and the person, at least for these fights, Kylo, coded as the main bad guy, clashing blades.
Yeah.
But there's so much that's like an evolution of lightsaber fights in these, which we'll talk about more depth. But the location switching in the dyad duel is like that's brand new, right?
Yeah.
The leaps in the water fight, which I know some people are not as fans of feeling it's a little bit too superhero-y, which we can talk about as well, but that was new, right?
Yeah.
We've seen it in other places since, and maybe is in animation somewhere I'm forgetting, but the live action, using the Force to block the blades, like that's just some new choreography. But the big thing for me of this evolution in lightsaber fights is that, to me, there's this sense that that the fights really, really, really aren't the point. Which obviously we've seen that in the original trilogy with Luke realizing what he's fighting for. But there's a real sort of sense to the fights that they're unwinnable, right? That there's that nothing is going to be achieved by these two fighting. And I'll share some more thoughts, and I'm sure you will, Ken, about that. But I just kind of wanted to pin that at the top of the discussion because I think that's a little bit what makes them kind of surprising and new to me. Is they're, if we're looking at just from the adventure serial thrill factor, they're thrilling and cool, and they have some new and surprising moves and all that. And they're both set up as these kind of unique, specific set pieces. But they're also like, if Star Wars is going towards this big idea that oftentimes violence is just not the solution, there's something about these lightsaber fights that just underlines like, this is pointless.
Yeah, no, because especially when you're trying to analyze it, you kind of have this realization that there's no clear cut winner going on here. And then both fights kind of, dissipate as opposed to come to an end, right? And just from that, it's like, well, cool. What does that mean? What am I saying? What am I seeing? And what is that saying? And yeah, I love that take.
Yeah, and I should clarify, not pointless from a narrative point of view, from is this going to accomplish anything of value for the characters in their hearts and souls? All right, well then let's get into Rey versus Kylo through the Force. Rey has boarded Kylo's command ship, the Steadfast, to rescue Chewie, but she is called by the dagger to Kylo's inner sanctum. Kylo is on the surface of Kijimi, searching for Rey. And through their Force connection, Kylo pushes Rey to confront the truth of her past. And what do you know? Blades clash. The conflict begins at about 59 minutes and 30 seconds. It is intercut with Finn, Poe, and Chewie being sentenced to death by Allegiant General Pride. It ends at about 1 hour and 2 minutes when Kylo sees Vader's melted helmet and realizes where Rey is and decides to finish this conversation in person. So, Ken, what are your current feelings on this fight, and have they changed over the years? And this time we mean 3 years instead of decades.
Hey, that's a lifetime right now in the world. Oh my God. Yeah, look, here's the thing. This is a piece of art and it belongs in a museum. And I know maybe over the course of my Star Wars talking history, you can view me as more of a cheerleader than a critic. And I love that description of what I do. I am a cheerleader for the scene. I just absolutely love the way it looks, love the way it feels, love the way it made me kind of go, huh? And I really think this is a strong build off the connection formed in episode 8 and such a wonderful, hey, what if? And you come up with this, and the idea of someone going, well, if they're connected, right? Well, what if they fought but in different spots? And to just take that and run with it and have fun with it, but also add what I think is a lot of meaning. I was mesmerized by it then. I love it now. And it's one of those things, this particular fight, and all of we're going to the second fight too. But I don't know if this makes sense, Joseph, but like one of the things I love about Rise of Skywalker is the colors. I just when I think of the movie in a quick overall flash sort of way, like what do I want to watch a movie today? When I watch a Star Wars movie today, Rise of Skywalker comes to mind. I think of bright, vibrant colors, the blues. I think of Rey and her kind of so kind of almost stark white outfit with the Pasana in the background, and kind of that thumbnail shot that's out there a lot. And I think of this fight with those, and I'm going to mention them a lot. I'm so sorry, but also not sorry. I'm going to mention those berries on that floor a lot because I just think of the colors a lot in Rise of Skywalker, and this fight is kind of up there for that reason alone, and then all the depth that I think is there.
Yeah, well, great preview, and I'm with you on the berry love. We'll dive deep on the berries, the berry meaning and the berry power. Yeah, no, I really agree with you. I think there's a lot of fascinating stuff going on with the look of the fight for sure. But for me, like, yeah, I always responded to this. I kind of love that it isn't a full fight. It is a skirmish along the way, right? This is. It's visually really cool. It is an absolute set piece, but it's kind of a conversation with lightsabers, right? Like, we'll get into it, but like Kylo has no, he's like, okay, sure, yeah, no, we can do a little lightsaber stuff, but I'm just trying to talk to you.
Right.
I just have stuff I need you to know, so that gives it like a different, vibe, right?
Yeah.
And then just as a set piece, it's pure invention, starting with The Last Jedi with their connection there and the transference of the little drop of water on Kylo that kind of raises his question mark. And then Kylo clearly doing more research for himself into what is this connection? What is all possible through this connection? We get the shock of the necklace grab and then building to this full ability to have like a lightsaber fight across space it's just great fantasy invention, and it is leaning into the part of Star Wars that I think is, not science fiction, but space fantasy. Anything is possible through the Force, through this unique connection. And I think this fight really represents like, okay, if we've got this connection between Rey and Kylo, and in some ways it's the heart of the movie. It's one of the lessons of the movie of, stronger together, two or more is better than one. Let's absolutely make the most of it. Let's not just leave it at a necklace grab. Let's have a fight across space. Is just such a great idea. And then the individual images, the berries, the helmet falling into the cold snow. It's just so great. And then one of the other kind of weird things that I love about this fight is I do love the shot where they both smash the pedestal and the helmet falls. But this is one of those scenes where I've always remembered to kind of take a deep breath when watching trailers, because I remember, I think a lot of us, myself included, kind of overanalyzing, like, why are they together? At this point, has Kylo turned? Why are they both swinging at the same thing at the same time? And just like the context of that one shot in the trailer being sort of overblown. The context in the film is great and specific, but like that one shot in the trailer, I think, sent a lot of us off into flights of fantasy.
Hey, look, a think piece about the dagger of Mortis is always appreciated. Whether it came out of this or not, it is. But yeah, no, I'm with you. Look, we're gonna do it again. The next trailer that comes out, we're gonna have fun. But yeah, I think it's again a lesson of releasing expectations and just seeing what's there. Because I remember when this sequence kind of started. I think when Rey walks into the room, I had that like already. And that's because I just assumed that was some big finale and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I love that. I love that angle to it.
Yeah.
It's a lesson.
Yeah, a good lesson every time I see that shot, and it's a damn cool shot. All right, let's get into the characters. What is at stake for them? Why are they fighting? What is victory? Let's start with Kylo. Where do you go with Kylo on this fight?
Yeah, so this particular encounter has steps of stakes kind of for me. So I want to start overall, though. I think there's this idea I have of them defeating the connection between them as opposed to building it. And in a way, they're still fighting over the saber and a lot of things between them. So looking at Kylo, based off my thoughts on that, I think he enters this fight with an aura of control until maybe it's revealed where she is, and we can talk about that. But he has that line, "You are hard to find." He's trying to seek her out. So he also he just look at it. He stomps a bit less. Kylo was definitely more present than Ben in this sequence. So I think it is victory for him might just be like a little bit of they're together. Not and that can go in a lot of different ways. I know, but just like kind of what he's looking for, that connection he has, and he senses her unease. He senses where she's at, and he's once again trying to use all of that. Not just against her, but to bring her closer to him. I really think that kind of stuff is there for him. And there's a little bit of a rush of fear, a panic energy, protecting his secret, so to speak, because she's in his inner chambers. And I have more thoughts on that when it comes to the environment, too. But to me, his truths are on display, his obsessions and his weaknesses. But at the same time, I think he knows. I think he likes that she knows him. And that's why I think it might lead to victory for him might be, yeah, all right, cool. Let me come tell you why we need to work together here. Be together.
Yeah. No, I love all this thought. I think it's fascinating to see kind of what state he's in this fight, and even I think a similar place with the second fight we're going to talk about. But in the second fight, I think an even more raw version of it. Yeah. But I think he's kind of given up, any sort of I think hope or any sort of like longing or pull to the light, and so there's this kind of like. He's kind of quiet and resolute, right? He's not desperate. He's not flailing in the forest. He's not fighting for his life like he is with the Praetorian guards. This isn't fight for him. This is almost more like just poking her, right?
Yeah.
I think he, on a practical level, he states what he wants pretty clearly. He wants her to see the truth of her lineage. He wants her to dredge up these painful memories. And truly see and feel the ultimate truth of her dark side lineage. And I think for him, the victory in that is, then they can destroy Palpatine together. That's a practical victory. They'll sit on the dark throne. Kylo will have what Palpatine, promised him, which is everything. This pursuit of the dark side of like, I will keep grabbing more and more and more, and eventually I'll have enough. But strip all of that away. And I think you're right. It's just, if I can beat her, not in a fight, but get her to break and see her truth, as Kylo perceives it, then Kylo will not be alone. I mean, I think that's what's really interesting to me about this fight is like he's not in it for the fight. He's like, oh, you want to swing your lightsaber a little bit at me? That's cool. I have I have things to say to you to try to break down your feelings. Like this is a conversation for him. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, if I'm glad to see you're in a place of anger. So I'll block those and parry and all that. And maybe I'll push you a little bit in order to get you to break even more. But for him, it's just like, hey, I want to talk, For me, there's this like fun, it's almost like the end of the Bespin fight where Vader's like, okay, cool. Enough of the lightsabers. we have things to say. So,
That's a great call, actually. That's a great call. Yeah, no, I love his it sounds like I'm a freshman in college. I just discovered themes for the first time, but his weapons are his words. It's right a lot.
It really is. And it's fun to see that like he's not instigating the violence, the literal physical violence, right? No. But he's instigating the conflict, right? He is appearing sort of over this connection. It's almost like, Rey and Kylo have, they have this phone and Rey can't block calls, you know?
100%.
And he's calling her up and she's like, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want you in my life. I don't want to have anything to do with anything you have to say to me. So he's very much instigating the emotional battle. But then as we kind of switch gears into Rey here, it's great to me that Rey is the one instigating the physical fight, right? He just says Rey, and she doesn't think about it. The blade ignites like it is, not even a command from her mind to her thumb. It's like her soul ignites that blade just from him being there.
It's a great Daisy Ridley moment. I don't want this. She's so upset about that. And you can take that in a lot of different ways. And some of it, she has a right to not want it and want it in this way. But she also needs to face some of this stuff. So I think it's this fight going on in her. And you're so right. She strikes first and remains on the attack for most of the exchange. I mean, we're maybe in the 98% range. There might be some strokes from him that, that he's seems to be more aggressive, but you're right. He's really just kind of like, all right, cool. I got that. Let's talk. And it's all from her. You're very right about that.
So what does that mean about Rey, what she wants out of this fight, or what victory is for her?
Like the phone call thing you're talking about, you're hard to get rid of. And that, again, goes a lot of different spots, but he's threatening her with the rest of her story. Right. And so Rey is alone. This whole movie, it's about her and trying to find those connections and trying to find what they mean. And so she's alone. And I think fighting at this particular point, really fighting these truths about herself. She's there, remember, to rescue Chewie because she thought she had killed him and used her power to kill him. It's pretty simple and on the screen, but to be here in this fight, she's alone. And I think feels maybe, I won't speak for Rey. I don't, but she might feel she needs to be alone. Maybe she deserves to be alone. And she's pushing away those that want to support her and be with her and our friends and our confidants. And then there's this monster over here who's like, hey, I'm still here and we should really talk. And all that kind of flows into this idea that she's battling this truth about herself. So I just think that's this kind of starting point for her. It's moves of fear, right? Because at this point she is really afraid of who she is, or at least discovering it. So I almost think, my final thought on it, Joseph, victory for her might be remaining a girl from nowhere, if that makes some sense. Where that might just be, at this point in the story, I think it's girl from nowhere is a powerful step forward for her. But at this point, it might be the easier choice. And if I can remain so in any way, shape, or form, might be some sort of victory for her. That's just a wild thought, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that makes sense. I think for me, yeah, it is. The film lays out very, very well early on as sort of a fear of her own power, which I think is set up in The Last Jedi when she tells Luke, like, I don't know what this is. Luke expresses fear at her level of power, even at the end of Last Jedi when she's saying, how do we build a rebellion out of this? We have everything we need. Leia's kind of telling her that she can do all this, but she's, at the beginning of Rise of Skywalker, not wanting to study to some level of perfection, never leave. We see her lose her temper. We see her hurt BB-8. So her whole journey of, I am afraid that my power, that I won't be able to control it. I won't be able to understand it. And I will lash out and I will hurt this family that I finally found. So I think that's all laid out really well in the film. And then that makes this fight to me just totally about denial, right? Of just
love that. Yeah.
I think her victory condition is block the call.
Yeah.
Right. It's pretty clear when she does scream in a great way, I don't want this. And I think everything is that, like, some of the stuff that Kylo is saying is, for him, it's obviously building toward what he eventually tells her of, like, you can't escape the dark side. It is your truth.
Yeah.
You got to submit to it. But some of the stuff he's saying to her in some way might be, and it ends up in the long run being empowering, right? Some of the memories he's trying to dredge back up, that your parents did care about you. They tried to keep you safe. They didn't just throw you away. Like I said before, I understand their full picture. So even some of what Kylo is offering in this moment, he's going to use to manipulate her, but it could be things that Rey might want to remember. And I think it's just a powerful emotional scene because it's a scene of somebody being like, there's this door inside of me to more truths, and some of them might even be good truths, but
Yeah.
some of them are probably scary, and I just don't want any of it. Lock that door, pile the furniture up, keep that bleeping door closed. And
Yeah.
that's what's really fascinating to me about what she wants out of this, right?
Yeah.
She ignites, she attacks, because I don't think it's necessarily about, there's no sort of like, no, I can defeat Kylo Ren and then the resistance will win. This is just about deny what Kylo is saying, deny their connection, deny even the possibility of the dark side touching her, deny the possibility that she could fail at this mission, fail Leia, fail herself, just shut the door on everything, close it all.
Close it all, put the couch, hammer some wood, and hold a shotgun at the door and make sure the zombies don't come in. Love this. I love the that word denial is really powerful for this, but also what you're saying about some of the specifics. Again, not every character, what they say is not a fact. Sometimes, especially Star Wars fans, seem to forget that. So there's some things Kylo says to her in this scene and some of the stuff after that aren't facts. They aren't what the movie's telling us. They're what Kylo is saying to her. But in that, this theme, and I'm sure it's going to come up again of never be afraid of who you are. You have everything you need. Things from Last Jedi, things that show up again in Rise of Skywalker. I love what you say, Joseph, about the lesson found for all of us. Sometimes we don't want to go down that hallway, even though we might know at the end of the hallway is an answer for and a pathway to something better for us or a better version of us. She doesn't want to face that, and that's why this idea of like when I say like I don't know, maybe beat a girl from nowhere is just that's just easier. I don't have to deal with anything else. That seemed pretty cool. And I'm going to stay here. And the fact that Kylo, who she knows, yeah, you're right. The connection is there. He's trying to sell it as something else. She wants it to be something else, especially going back to Last Jedi. But even that connection is dangerous to that idea. And it fuels the need for denial.
Yeah, and then it ties to, Leia telling her not to be afraid of who she is. Later, her dark side version telling her a dark side version of that, of like, oh, but maybe the truth of who you are is this dark side person. And it goes to Luke's kind of ultimate lesson, which I love. And in every New Year's, write down among my life goals. The reminder that confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi. And this is a scene about confronting fear of like, I don't want to look what's inside there. I'm afraid of what might be inside there, and I'm not going to confront it. She's still on her journey. She does confront that fear, but like everything, Kylo's words, Kylo's presence, it's the fear, and she's not wanting to confront it. She's just wanting to push it away. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And makes her aggressive. And it's acts of fear in those lightsaber strikes.
Yeah. So with that in mind, let's take all of those emotions and thoughts in victory conditions and put them into berries. Let's talk about the environment. How does the environment help the story or the thrill factor of this lightsaber and conversational fight?
Yeah, well, look, we'll just start with that. It was funny. It's the last line of my notes in this section, but we'll move to the top. The colors in this scene just pop. Those berries, man, the best berries in the world since Captain Crunch and berries. All right, this is just I love the use of that. But overall, the environment really just drives home the main theme for me, or some of the main themes in there. I love seeing them fight each other while being in environments that they might be uncomfortable in. They're fighting from each other's perspectives almost to me. Rey's in this cold, sterile environment, no sand, no life, far from the galaxy. She's always just been so amazed to be out in. Kylo is down on the ground, a world he's oppressed that is full of life, families, friends, connections. And it's just kind of this, they start there and shows their connections to each other. There's a literal and spiritual and bizarre connection going on that they maybe don't fully understand, or maybe he's starting to get, I don't know. And it just, to me, kind of serves this big, how far can this connection go factor to me. I was mesmerized by all of it at the first, including, I think I was just as shocked as Rey when the lightsabers touched, it was kind of building up to that. So that's why I look. And then there's just berries on the floor.
The thrill of berries. We'll talk about those even more when we talk about favorite moments of thrill and emotion. I have to stop myself from just getting into in that shot's cool, and that shot is cool. But for me, I think this is, in some ways, the environment is the thrill factor, right? The this is to me it's a lightsaber skirmish. It is not a kind of a full out fight because it really is. Kylo is kind of he's the emotional aggressor trying to get Rey to acknowledge these things, and Rey is sort of physically the physical fight aggressor trying to not acknowledge these things. But a lot of the thrill factor comes from the strange switching of environments.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, it really helps tell the emotional story too, because if what Kylo is pushing for is open up this connection between us. I have been in your mind. I know your truth better than you do, which is a scary thing to say, but just basically like, I know, I know more about you than you do, and I want you to see the full thing that I see. And if Rey's whole energy is denial, shut the door, the fact that she is so close to this person that her physical reality is bleeding into his, it's a great reflection of like, what I would like to do is shut down, but our connection is so powerful, our realities are bleeding together.
Yeah. Oh, I love that there. And to the idea that, I agree with you. It's a skirmish from a certain point of view, but in going deeper into all these fights, it's really kind of helped define for me what I view as lightsaber fights. Going back to, we did end up talking about it, but the Kenobi Grievous matchup in episode 3, I still go down on the side of more of an action sequence than a lightsaber fight, because I think there was less going on between them in the fight. There's great surface level stuff, some stuff at stakes. Hell, the war is at stake. But you know what I mean? And like this fight, which is a little bit of a different feel, but just has much more importance to the overall story, to these characters, and what the lessons mean to me as a fan. And that's sometimes maybe now the dividing line that I think I have formed, and then I have even, a couple weeks ago when we started this series.
Yeah, so like for you, a lightsaber fight is a little bit more defined by like the soul of the character is at stake rather than the galaxy necessarily.
Just that there's some clear lines in it, and it doesn't mean that going through Clone Wars and anything. Anytime a lightsaber comes out, it's a candidate to be a duel that we're going to talk about. I definitely think that, and there's more that you and I have been discussing about what we're going to do. But there would have maybe been a part of my life where I wouldn't have been angry car guy about it, but of like, I don't know, is this really a fight? It's kind of something different, this and that. But now just seeing what's at stake, it is a fight. I mean, we're talking about big stakes for these characters and big stakes for the stories in this exchange. And that's what I go to. It's just some of the stuff you said there, how the thrill of it is the environment and adds to what's going on to the big picture of the stakes and this little fun skirmish between them.
Yeah. And I mean, and I don't mean to be dismissive with skirmish. I think it's like a big part of the storytelling that Rey's response is lightsaber, right?
Yep.
That the way to close this door is get swinging with that lightsaber.
Not to sound like I'm defending bad boy Kylo here, but there's a chance that he didn't want to swing blades at all in this sequence. I don't know. Like lightsaber doesn't come out till she strikes, right? So he wants to talk, and this is not to put fault on Rey at all. It's just like the situation. Like, so yeah, I think all that factors into my view of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he wants to find her, right? For sure. That's a literal motivation in the fight. Berries and helmets eventually helps him do that. But I think, another part of him is just like his ideal would be she would fall to her knees, accept these memories, be broken by them, and being like, and come running to Kylo. Like that's what he wants.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think in terms of like the environment telling the story, the thrill factor, I think it is so important, and I really agree with you that there is a coldness to both spaces. Yeah. That there's the literal snow and stone on Kijimi. It's a literally frigid place. People in the background are running in terror, right? It's not a happy place at the moment. And then we have this, sterile, stark, white room full of dark side trophies. She's in Kylo Ren's creepy bedroom, which is both chilling in that choice of stark white. Also, I think visually connects to Leia, right? It connects all of our sort of cultural memory of Leia in that white gown, Leia in those white hallways, some of our early scenes of Leia. And it's a great sort of subversion of expecting him to be in this dark, dark place. So there is this kind of this little hint of possibility in his connection with Leia, but practically in this scene, it's Rey did not mean to end up in his cold, sterile, scary bedroom full of dark side trophies.
Yeah. Yeah, seen all his toys on the wall.
Yeah. Well, he does keep his room clean, so that's
He does.
good job, Kylo. Good
Better
job.
than me. Better than me.
Yeah. Way better than me. But I think overall it gives the whole scene a denial of emotions, a denial of warmth,
Mm,
right? It's a
yeah.
cold, frigid uh scene
Yeah.
based on the environment, and we'll talk about this more with the water fight, but I think it's really interesting and cool that there's a visual thread throughout Rey and Kylo's fights of snow and water and
Mm.
cold and what could be isolation, which of course eventually isn't between them. But Starkiller Forest, the Mirror Cave on Octo, the first thing that's exchanged between them is water, right?
Yeah.
This is yet another sort of snowy and cold. Distant environment, both of them together, and then of course the next battle is all water all the time. So I
Yeah.
think it's really cool that there's a consistent thread.
Yeah, I agree.
So, what realities of filmmaking do you think about when you watch this one?
I really think, and a lot of it goes into for this one, like behind the scenes stuff or just kind of technical stuff. Just both actors being present for each other. The way they shot this fight, shooting it across 2 locations, and I think there was I forget the exact quotes, but I think even Daisy's saying like, "Oh, we're actually going to do this. We're actually going to shoot in 2 spots, and no trickery. We're gonna figure this out." And that puts a lot of pressure on the editing. I think the editing in this scene is really good. It might even be slightly better for me than the fight we're going to talk about. It's just it really keeps the energy and momentum, and it just succeeds in making it seem like it is in the same spot and they are actually fighting because they are. And I think all that kind of works for me, and it just kind of factors into my joy. Just both actors connected, present for each other in these moments.
Yeah, I think I mostly think about the editing, right? How
Mhm.
one location slides into another in lots of different ways. There's like great
Mhm.
swooping shots where we go around a corner and suddenly we're in a different space. There's a one shot where they hit blades and there's like a flash, and then the location has just changed. So there's some variety in how it's accomplished, and I think it's done really well. If this is a scene about Kylo pushing for even deeper connection and Rey trying to deny it, the way it's edited together, the way these location changes are swapping, and it obviously Kylo can't physically see her location. That's part of
Mhm.
what's at play. But it just seems like their connection is undeniable, right? Is the audience, we get to see that from the way these locations slide together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just smooth. It keeps the energy, keeps momentum going, and it's more than just it's a fun concept, but it's more than that. It actually executed it well in all different ways. With the way they shot it, the way it was put together, and just the feel of it, man. It's a really fun fight.
Yeah. How do you feel about keeping Kylo masked for this scene?
I actually really like that. I think, especially where he is in the story, what that mask now means for him again. This kind of I feel threatened by Palpatine. Got to reconstruct this, and I am who I say I am. Right. I got the mask, and she's seeing through it, seeing through the cracks. She says that a few times during the movie up to this point. So I actually kind of like it, and then it keeps, again, if he's trying to get some sort of connection. Uh, but he's still hiding behind the mask. It really tracks for where he is. And then that leads to some of the moments after this where he's like, all right, let me pull this off again. And by the way, the last time I pulled this off, or at least the first time in Force Awakens, you defeated me emotionally and really set me spiraling out of control where I thought I was something and you knew I wasn't. So to have it kind of, the next version of that, the next phase, it means a lot. So I think it's poignant. It's very purposeful to keep the mask on here.
Yeah, I think it is building to when he chooses to take it off after telling her the dyad truth and offering his hand in that.
Yeah.
Another thing I appreciated about the actual filmmaking is I don't think I've ever fully picked up on it until today. There's the traditional lightsaber clash sound effects. There's also this great weird hollow ring
Mhm.
when they hit, right? Which is just this great, I'm sure I picked up on it subliminally. I didn't
Mhm.
actively hear it, but it's just it's great to just design that this fight is ringing out and sounds different because it's this incredibly different connection. It's a lightsaber fight we've never seen before, and it
Yeah.
sounds different.
Yeah, sound design. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Just everything about it worked out for me. Sorry, folks. I just love it.
So let's love some more. What are some of your favorite moments of thrill and emotion? And do you want to start with Barry's?
No, I think we'll work up to Barry's. But I love. I even put the time code down at 59:34 to about 59:36. This is after Kylo says Rey, and she turns around, and that's where we kind of realize what's going on. And Kylo is looking at her from Kijimi. Camera's kind of behind her at a lower angle, weapon out, looking up at him. It's one of those hanging on a wall. It's just a real solid Star Wars shot that I love, and it's just thrilling, man. I just love that. It just as deep as we want to go, deep as we love going. We all react, all of us, you, me, and all of us listening. We just kind of love those Star Wars moments. It's why we keep buying tickets. I just think it's it's underrated. I think it's an underrated shot. I really love it. I think it's pretty.
No, and it goes with a lot of shots that have been featured in Star Wars recently, with a little bit of that perspective of the one character in the foreground. It's not as in the foreground as some of the other really Western shots, but that blade out but down, and the bad guy staring on. It's really, really powerful, and the design of Kijimi is great, and it's a really great shot. I think for me early on, I love Kylo saying, "I know the rest of your story."
Ooh, yeah.
I love that on multiple levels. They're used on radio stations that my parents used to listen to. There's the guy who had that little segment called "The Rest of the Story," and like he'd tell you like a story about this young singer from London, and at the end he'd be like, and that singer was Mick Jagger, and that's the rest of the story. So a little bit of comedy to me. I feel like it's a kind of a public radio moment from Kylo.
Who did that? Was it Paul Harvey? Did it? Now you
Paul
know
Harvey.
the rest
Yeah.
of the story. Yes, it was. You're
No,
so right. That's I've never thought about Kylo Ren as Paul Harvey. That's amazing.
And that old man was Sheev Palpatine. And now you know the rest of the story.
Great.
So there's a little bit of comedy for me of that, but just actually enjoying it. I know the rest of your story, right? I think that's one of those moments and one of the scenes that viewers can potentially get hung up on the conversation of how much does Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker connect. Is this additional information, or is this changing it? And we've discussed that plenty here on ForceCenter. We generally fall into it is what Kylo's saying. It's more information, not a change. And again, as always, I totally respect if people feel differently and strongly. That's just fine. But for me, what I love about I know the rest of your story, it is this kind of power move, because it's a lot to say. Like, I've been in your head, and I see what you're denying yourself of seeing. It's never fun to have somebody else tell you what your truth is. But there is a truth in it, right? Of like, there is more than you are willing to let yourself remember. So there's truth in what he's saying, and it's also a manipulation, right?
Yeah.
You come over here, come to me, and I will help you unlock your story. So I love that it is kind of this truth of the power of their connection, and this truth that Rey does need to know her whole story and confront her whole story and its manipulation.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. I love it. And as far as the connecting, it's just, I stand on the side of it is a yes and, not a no but, in terms of ongoing information and basic improv lessons. So no, love all that there. And there's something that's so funny. Again, we were joking and also being true and honest. The weapons being his words, that is kind of pulling out a dagger, isn't it? It is kind of going, this is what I got. This is what I'm fighting with. Yeah.
I know what you're denying. Yeah. And along those lines, I like, you already mentioned it when he says, I've been in your head. It's a great, reminder of that connection, and also his sort of pushing for that connection that she doesn't want right now, as she makes very clear when she just says, I don't want this. It's such great, powerful delivery. I've had discussions with many people about their feelings about Rise of Skywalker, but sometimes it's come up of like, well, she should have been more angry, and like I almost want to just like be like, just watch that scene. Many moments of her anger, but the raw, powerful emotion of I don't want this. It's it's so good. It's pure emotion and it's pure. I can't handle this. I don't want to open that door. Don't try to make me open that door.
Yeah. She ain't happy, pretty angry, and then the lightsaber comes out, you know?
Yep. So what are some other moments of thrill and emotion that you enjoy in this fight?
I did write down that first clash of sabers, because it's this revelation of they can reach out across the stars and fight like we know the connection. We've even what you talk about during the Yaki Yaki festival and what we already picked up for Last Jedi. I mean, the rain on the gloves in Last Jedi is clues that this is all possible, but just Rey has a shocked look on her face for me, even though she takes the first swing. So it's almost like she's hoping. I'm hoping this is real because I'd love to cut him in two. But when they hit and he blocks, it's just the shock that like, oh, we are this connected. This is this real.
Yeah.
I love that little moment.
Yeah, that is absolutely great. I love the first sort of camera circle around Kylo, and then Rey appears on Kijimi. You know, that actual like camera move and using Kylo as the sort of the break in realities. And there's a weird, great echoing, crinkling sound effect that goes with that transition of realities that I really, really love and appreciate as well.
Love it.
So I'll share some others and then we can get to Barry's.
Yeah, that's all I got is Barry. So yeah, you.
I love the Vader helmet. I love that shot of them both hacking. It is like this. Neither of them. It's just lashing out, right? It's just conflict, but then this truth kind of coming out of the conflict. I love that the Vader helmet came back. I love it's the helmet in the snow. There's so much in these movies, but Rise of Skywalker in particular of Kylo / Ben and Rey kind of trying to find a way forward, but the past just kind of nipping at him. And the Vader helmet is, it could have been anything, right? It could have been a little piece of his wall unit, right? It could have been his bedboard. The fact that it's the Vader helmet that lets him know, you are in my space, and I'm coming to you. That's great. And then final one before the berries for me. I do love that Rey has the dagger in her hand the entire time. And it goes well with the water fight where she's got the hero's blade, which we know the hero's blade can do some bad things. Anakin did some bad things with that blade. But it's always fun that there's another weapon too, right? That's what she's pushing and pulling. She's saying, I don't want any of this. I reject all this. And also I will slice at your gut with this dagger that I know is pulsing with evil.
Yeah, and that dagger, if it had been the dagger of Mortis, fun lore, but I just didn't need it to be. It just needed to be a weapon of evil. So I agree with you there. I love everything about it. Love what you're saying about the helmet, the use of it. And I just love that at one point Kylo was like, pack that up and send it to my new bedroom.
Lay it out nicely so I can really consider each object. All right, let's wrap up talking about our favorite moments of thrill and emotion by talking berries. Obviously, it's a great, beautiful visual. It is surprising because it really starts to let us know that not only can they see one another, but that the spaces are interacting and overlapping. Is that what you love about it, or is it just the pure visual?
I'll start with that it's a pure visual. It does mean some of the stuff you're talking about there for sure. Yeah, absolutely. But it's the visual. It's the berries on the floor. I'm a sucker for it. It's red on white. It is blood being spilled. It is this sterile environment getting this vibrant, blood being the kind of a life force, if you will. And again, no, it's berries, but it just kind of works in that way for me. So I can dive in, but I also can live in that world of man. And then they cut the berries and it was cool. Like I live in all that. I live in all of that.
Yeah, it is. It's a great visual. It is making the most of this connected environment. But it does evoke all those things. I think even if you don't stop and list them, it just evokes them on an emotional level of blood that's spilling out on this white floor. But it's also just this idea of like that is where Rey is at. Rey is afraid of her power, afraid of her ability to hurt others with her power. And it's just a bucket of berries on a on a snow world, but it has that feeling of the more this goes on, there's going to be unintentional consequences. Other things are going to be hurt and ripped apart.
Ooh, yeah, really love that. Really love that idea of just like real damage can happen here. This isn't a fantasy fight. Yeah, right. They're not dreaming this. We got the big Kylo memory dream sequence come with Han soon, and wonderful questions that we love talking about what that all really means. But this is a reminder, along with the blades can touch and things can get damaged, and that includes us.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the end of this battle, after some berries and some emotions have been spilled, I'd kind of argue that, Kylo wins because he gets what he wants on a real practical level. He knows where she is. Why do you think he goes to her in person rather than just telling her the truth through their Force connection?
I'll start here. Not for nothing. I do think he has a suite on her. So I think there's a little bit of like, don't worry. I'll drive to your house. Don't worry. I'm heading over there. Oh, you're at my apartment. I'll be over there. All right. So I think there's some of that. But goes to what we were talking about. What he's fighting for. He craves connection, right? He really craves it. And you can take that in many directions. But I can't think of them being in the same space. In Force Awakens, he's thrown for a loop that first time and then defeated by her. Kind of the next big time, The Last Jedi. They almost form a team before Snoke, but the real connection came with that hand touch. Things happen when they're together, and I think he feels, and he she rejects that outstretched hand at the end of this time together in Snoke's throne room. So that's why no. If I'm like a sports agent, I signed that deal in the living room. I'm going to go there and take my helmet off. I'm going to put that hand out again because I'm telling you what I want you to believe is the only truth, even though there's some truth maybe mixed in. And I just I think it's there, and he's won some, he's lost some, and this is like a deciding game for him. Get close to her, tell her the truth, offer my hand, we rule it all. And I think it all goes down to this craving of the connection.
Yeah, no, I so agree with you, and that's a great point that the finger touch in The Last Jedi is building to all of this this connection across space as well. But yeah, no, I think this is really about like his end goal is obviously he said, I offered you my hand once, why didn't you take it? That gets set up in the beginning of Rise of Skywalker. But I really think like, if he has a vision board for what he's doing, he's like, I want you to literally, physically take my actual flesh hand.
Yeah.
None of this connection from afar. I want her to literally, physically take my hand, and I'll know that we'll sit on that throne together, and then I'll have peace, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So out of 10 lightsabers fully ignited, how many lightsabers do you personally give this fight?
Yeah, this was real tough because clearly I absolutely love it. I could watch this over and over again. I could have a crunch berry cereal while I'm watching these berries get spilled all over the floor. But it is short. It is at times, the skirmish is a good word, not a bad word. It's a good word to describe it. So it was hard to rank, but I went with 8.5. Like a little bit, the length kind of naturally deducts some points for me. But everything there, the stakes, it's solid. 8.5 out of 10 for me.
And good use of not whole numbers. I'll go 7.25 out of 10 because it's a great scene. The emotions in the visuals are 10 out of 10, but it is to me a smaller scale fight. Rey is really the one to me fighting, and Kylo's kind of only getting into the lightsaber part of it in order to find where she is, and push her emotionally. So I think for me, it's a little lower, even though I absolutely love the scene. It's a little lower as a lightsaber fight.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break then, and then we'll get back to a much larger lightsaber fight. Back in a moment. And we are back to continue part 8 of the Magic of Lightsaber Fights. We've got to what I think is a very big fight, a big angry duel. After being confronted by a vision of her dark side self, Rey stumbles back into the Death Star throne room where Kylo waits. She ignites her blade at about 1 hour and 16 minutes. The fight is intercut with Leia feeling the fight through the Force and Finn and Janet trying to reach Rey. Finally, Rey stabs, then heals Ben at about 1 hour and 22 minutes. So a longer fight. Ken, what are your current feelings on this fight, and have they changed over the few short in time but long in emotion years since we first saw it?
Oh man, you just add water to your lightsaber fight mix, and you got a full meal. So much to enjoy, so much to dig into. It has a depth to it that begs to be explored, which we're about to do, of course. But you can also just enjoy it. It's a new generation fighting aboard, a symbol of the past. All that is there for me. I think I was ready to love it going in, just some of the shots, which still show up on my thrill list, and then just the way it played out, and then the way it ends. And we're not even here to talk about the Han Solo stuff. That's another time, another place. We already have, and we're going to do it again, I'm sure, because it's so big. But yeah, the fight itself, I just really enjoy it. I came out of the theater just like really enthralled with the visuals. Again, the themes sometimes you can connect with, sometimes in the moment, but you dig in a little bit later. That's what we love doing here. But I just came out of that going, that is a playground lightsaber fight. That is me telling my friends, all right, and then you leap. So just really climb down and then run over there. You leap to the slide, and then I'll follow you, and we'll do. That I just had that feel, and I do love that the pew 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 factor, so to speak. Even though it's a clash.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I really loved it when we first saw it because I thought it was thrilling and different and high stakes. I was very caught up in the actual story of the true what is going to happen. I was really curious and invested throughout the film of this idea that, of course, one of the questions going into Rise of Skywalker is, what will happen with Kylo? Will he be able to get back to Ben, and the big question for me of where in the story is that going to take place?
Yeah.
So I think I was really caught up in that, and I'm just going to be very honest. It's a thing I've talked about before on the podcast. I had this experience watching Rise of Skywalker that first time. We were at the same theater together, sitting right near each other at El Capitan Theater, and I was shocked by the dead speak, and then I was just all in. I was loving this movie, but I really had to urinate. And I did not want to leave the theater. I just I'm not doing it. I'm not going to have that be my first viewing of this film. And when the fight started, and it's like, okay, I'm not leaving. I'm fully invested. But man, waves of crashing water are not a ton of fun right now for me.
That's awesome. I don't know if I had known that little detail or couldn't remember it. That's great. That's the worst feeling. That's especially, I love going to a theater, but it's a fear that hangs over every second of the movie for me.
A risk to everything we've built. But for me, the power of the film, I got so invested in it that I definitely did have to urinate, but it went to the back of my mind, and I made it all the way through the credits even. That was my confronting my fear is the destiny of a Jedi moment. So anyway, I think I really enjoyed it. I really appreciated it. I think looking back at it over the years and spending a little bit more time with it, I think the parts of it that are just a thrilling, cool lightsaber fight, the literal just story, what happens next, and the themes, when you combine them all together in a package, to me, this is one of the most different and most intriguing lightsaber fights in the Skywalker saga. I think in some ways it is the anti-lightsaber fight. It is no one will get a victory out of this. There's almost no reason to even be having this fight. It's cold and sad and empty on purpose. And I do think that we've seen that fight, we've seen that theme in lots of lightsaber fights of, going back to the very first one, Vader is fighting for dominance over Kenobi, but Kenobi knows I'm just fighting him to hold him off for a while. And, Luke doesn't understand that if he just cuts down his father in Bespin, he's not going to get the victory he thinks he is. The Return of the Jedi fight is Luke trying to avoid the fight, but they're still all shot and scored with a thrill factor, right? And there is a thrill factor to this, but to me, there's this power that the way it is acted, the way it's shot, the way it's scored, the longer it goes on, the more hollow and sad it becomes. And all of the filmmaking adds up to allowing us to feel what Rey is feeling in this moment of in some ways it's her lowest moment, and it's hollow and sad. So it's like you're pumping your fist because it's a thrilling, intriguing lightsaber fight, but you're also just really feeling like our main character is lost. Why is she doing this?
Yeah. Well, that's a great way to describe it. A great way for something so sad to describe. No, I love it. And I take what you mean there of, you don't have, there's so many ways to avoid this. And I'm not even getting to the Jedi philosophy. I'm just like, you two, like this connection, going back to what we were saying before of like, you kind of have the pieces you need. You're both just kind of looking at it in different ways and fear and everything's kind of clouding that. But yeah, absolutely. There's it's funny because the solo thing, the solo appearance and Kylo and giving away to Ben, like that's kind of a happy ending to the sequence. But then we're not factoring that into this conversation. It ends with Leia gone, Kylo's stabbed, and who knows what. And Rey's literally run away from her fate, run away, making this choice to go away. It's dark. There's a dark, somber quality to the fight.
Yeah, there's a dark, somber quality to it, and it doesn't back away from that. And I think that makes it really, really fascinating. So let's get into a little bit of the why of that, of the characters, what's at stake for them, what are they fighting for, what is victory for them. Again, let's start with Kylo. I would imagine that we both feel that he's still on the same trajectory that he was in the previous fight, but I do think this one's different. So for you, where is Kylo at? What does he want?
Well, gosh, sorry. I always seem to do this, and I apologize. I have a lot of Kylo and Rey thoughts, and I was about to close my computer and get a drink and get ready to record, and I said, let me watch it one more time. And this thought came over, and I just want to share it up top. It's like, what's at stake? It's the way forward for both of them, for themselves, together. And at moments, they're fighting for what they think is the way, or fighting the other for being in the way of the path forward, or just fighting against what they might feel is the way. And that comes up a lot. So that slides to Kylo for me. I think there's a literal thing of it's power, it's eliminating threats, it's killing the past, all these kind of big Kylo things. But I still think it's like you said, it's victory for him though is this connection. And he's got that great line of, you can't go back to her now like I can. You've been trying to prove this stuff to Leia, prove you're a Jedi. You're not. You can't go back because I can't. So it ties into all the things he said before, but he did in destroying that Wayfinder and saying you're only getting Exegol with me. It's kind of trying to cement that way forward and force this connection for something that's not actually there, if that makes sense. And so I just kind of like I kind of think that's where he is. Again, connection, kind of like I said, similar, but it's a little more raw, a little more angry, a little more confused.
Yeah, no, I love all that, and I agree with your big picture. They're both trying to find the way forward. Kylo wants the two of them to rule the throne together, and Rey wants, through all of the horror that she's going through, she's still just trying to stay on mission, right? Get the Wayfinder, finish the mission, and they are in one another's way, in ways they don't need to be. So I really like that big picture for both of them of this is a clash because they're standing in one another's way. But I think for Kylo, what I really love is he's in that earlier fight, right? He's trying to get her to open the door and see everything. And she, at this point, she kind of she's opened the door and she's collected the truth, right? Down to having to be in this throne room of Palpatine, seeing that vision of her dark side self. And I think this is one of the greatest Kylo lines when he's, says, you're trying to prove a Jedi and you prove something else. You're not acting like a Jedi. You are full of rage. And now you can't go back to her just like I can't. The just like I can is just like, to me, like it is such a powerful, great line that just ties everything going on with Kylo into a bow, right? Down to not being able to fire on Leia, right? All sorts of great stuff. But what it leads to is that perspective that he has of the dark side is in our nature, and he says submit to it, right? So I feel like Kylo's goal is submission, getting Rey to submit to the dark side. I think he needs Rey to break to prove to himself that his own breaking was inevitable, right? Like I've read that I've read this dyad idea in his mind is, we're connected because we both have this dark side lineage that mirrors one another, and that is going to be our truth. It wasn't my choice. I didn't make a bad choice.
Mm-hmm.
I can't help it. It's coming for me no matter what, and just give into it. And then I think from there, all the alleged and you'll have power, you won't be foolish, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But he's not ranting and raving, right? He's
Mm-mm.
not in that place he's not screaming unlimited power, right?
Mm-mm.
It's just submit to it. It's just, it is for me, this fight, especially from Kylo's perspective, is one of those moments where the analogy of the dark side is that like this sad clawing addiction is really present, right? Like we've seen the dark side as, dominance of Palpatine, screaming unlimited power and lightning. We've seen it as like unlocking unchecked power, like just the fire of Vader, right?
Yeah.
And that's not the dark side we're seeing here. It's this sad, cold, I just submitted to this, this cold thing that has me isolated from everything in life. I submitted to it. And in order for me to be okay with that, I need you to submit too. It's in his body language, right? He's calm, he's detached, he's resolute. He's definitely tapping into the dark side, and he's definitely ends up sort of winning the fight, quote unquote. But it isn't fiery, right? It's just this slow, sad march.
Yeah, going to up top what you're saying about it, this is a fight that doesn't have to happen, and it's sad and like I said, somber. Like, yeah, that line, like I can't. You're right. It is the antithesis to unlimited power, isn't it? It's the total other direction. Yeah, this kind of sucks, but what are you gonna do? Just join up, please join up so that I can feel good about it. Kylo Ren is the peer pressurer that your parents warned you about going into junior high. Like, just do it, man. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel that.
It's like, it's unlimited submission. I don't particularly like this, but I have to give in, and so do you.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and I think by the end, when he's, he in the end of the fight, he's literally physically getting her to submit, right? He's bashing her until she literally falls to her knees, till she runs out of strength. And, I think there's room for interpretation, that final blade raise when Leia stops him, when Leia contacts him, if he's going to just keep hammering at her defenses, if he's gonna cut her, just like literally scar her, if he is so lost that he's got to a place, if it's a join me or die moment of like she's not going to take my hand so she can just go. Where do you feel he's at that last moment when he's raising the blade?
I think there might have been a pause. I so love the Leia moments. I don't want to erase that from my mind at all. But I don't know if he completes that to the end. But at the same time, the way the state he's in, just giving up the submission, is you're talking about. I could see him striking her down. But I just think there's still going to be this almost pathetic last ditch still effort to be like, I'm really going to do this. Don't you want to ride on out of here? Come on.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah. No, I think for me, it obviously it's shot where you could see like, oh, it's just coming down. If she doesn't block, he's going to cut her in two. But for me, it feels more like he wants her to submit, and he's very close to that victory of like, this is very dark. So I'm totally acknowledging that. But like, if he scarred her the way she scarred him, and it's like, see, look, it's all inevitable. We're tied together. Like, I feel like that's where he is headed. But maybe there is a possibility that he is totally lost to the dark side in that moment, is he is just resolutely submitting, feeling totally isolated, totally alone, can't even get Rey, his dyad partner, to join him, and then suddenly feels that embrace of his mother. It's incredibly beautiful to me.
Yeah, I love that moment. Yeah, it could be this like, wouldn't you rather? I'm about to kill you. Wouldn't it be better to live with the dark side than die? And then maybe Rey has a comment or choice about that. I don't know.
Let's talk about Rey's choices and comments. What do you feel like is at stake for Rey? Why is she fighting? What is victory for her in this fight?
Yeah, because this idea of the way forward, I think she's one that's actually, again, still building off where she was before, fighting herself in a way. So there's this duality of stakes, if you will, and victory conditions of defeating herself, but also defending herself. She's afraid of it all. Definitely afraid of surrendering to the dark side. You got all Captain Peer Pressure here saying, no, just try it. It's good. Trust me. And she only sees the bad side of the equation, going back to what we were saying earlier, and the pieces are all there, just as maybe how you look at them, or maybe you got to not be, confront that fear and work through it and get that other side. So she's kind of fighting to destroy all attached to it. She's afraid of this power, this we know, and what she can do with it. And this whole sequence ends with her kind of giving in, not necessarily to giving into the dark side, but giving into that bad side, that bad energy, and running away. It's her lowest point since starting this journey to me. But at the same time, she's afraid of being alone or having to do this alone. I think that's part of, I don't know, when Kylo crushes that Wayfinder, there's him, that's a statement from him, but it's just kind of her going, I needed that. I need that. And therefore maybe, oh, damn it, I might need you, and not connecting to other ways to do it. And it's she's overlooking the connection again to those who love her. And in fact, literally force pushing her connection with Finn away, and afraid of that connection, and afraid of the connection to Kylo being what she needs to get to Exegol, right? It's like, it's all kind of this surge of emotions in her, and she's still afraid of the good parts and also not right there to submit to the bad parts.
Yeah. No, I really like these thoughts. I feel like one of the things I like about Rise of Skywalker is this sort of desperation. Finn is in some ways the most optimistic of let's do this together. We can all do this together. Poe's trying to be the spark, right? And trying to keep it alight. Rey is trying to, be the hero that the galaxy needs, that, be the person that lightsaber, flew to, right? More than one time, and help, save the galaxy from Palpatine. And in some ways it's like that Wayfinder is the spark. Like, they fought so hard for that, and then boop, immediately taken from her. So it is definitely the spark of the mission going out. But it's also, like, I think her hope for herself, right? Like, I think she's in such a dark place that she doesn't want the things that Kylo is saying to be true, that the dark side is inevitable, but it is exactly her fear.
Yeah.
And I think what the fight hinges on is, like, when she's on Octo with Luke, she remembers the Wayfinder in Kylo's ship, right?
Yeah.
That's not on the front of her mind. This would be a very different fight if, like, Kylo smashed that Wayfinder, and he says the only way you're getting to Exegol is through me. But, like, he doesn't pull out the other Wayfinder, and he doesn't say the other Wayfinder is on my ship. There's no part of the fight where, we cut to Rey looking at the Wayfinder on his ship. Like, there isn't anything to me in this fight where Rey is being rational about, I'll defeat him, I'll get to the other Wayfinder. And I say all that because I want to kind of support my perspective that this is just rage, and that's what makes this fight so beautiful and different and horrific and hollow up until the moments of victory at the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like she is just lashing out in complete rage, right? On a practical level, if she defeated Kylo and then got to his Wayfinder, yes, it will help her complete the mission. But that's not what she is fighting for. That's not what's on her mind. The way she's fighting is just to kill what Kylo represents to her in that moment, which is the inevitability of the dark side, right?
Yeah.
I feel like she is falling into this trap that we've seen, other heroes have to wrestle with. But this is in some ways the most visceral version of it. Is just, it's fighting hate with hate. It's like, I don't want this dark side of myself, so I'm going to cut it out by using the dark side. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the irony. Yes. No, I love what you're saying. Yeah. It's to me, it's a mess of emotions, and all of them not good right now. Not good right now for Rey. Yeah.
And I think that's, about, like, her fear in this film is tracked so well. She says it explicitly to Luke that she is afraid of herself, afraid that first she was no one in the story. Now she has the worst place in the story, and that her power is actually dangerous and she can't control it. And she's finally found some family, and she'll just hurt them and she'll just drive them away. And I think that's what, pushing Finn is about, is like, I will hurt you. Right. But even that is like, please keep your distance. I'm afraid I will hurt you, is what she's feeling. But she's in such a place of rage, it comes out in a massive force push, right? Like,
yes,
it's so visceral to be like, I love you, I don't want to hurt you, so I'm going to push you out of a moving car because you're not safe near me, right? Like, it's that level of she's stuck in it.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what's the fight is about is Kylo is calm and resolute. He's given himself to the dark side, and she is fighting with this rage, right?
Mm.
But her strength falters. And for me, I kind of take that as
Mm.
she has all of this rightful earned rage from her
Mhm.
lived experience. She has real anger in the film, and you understand why. She's had a really rough life, and she's lost a lot, and people have invaded her mind and are telling her who she's going to be, and all these things. She has every right to
Mhm.
be angry. Her anger is understandable, but I think a lot of what this story is her nature at the end of the day is kindness and empathy and reaching out and
Mm.
connection. Her strength, her spirit is the light side,
Mm.
and she's fighting from the dark side in this fight
Yeah.
to me. And she doesn't derive strength ultimately from the dark side, just emptiness. And like, I love those faltering moments at the end of the fight when she's like, I'm running low on rage, and
Yeah.
it's not fueling me the way everybody says it's going to. It doesn't work for her, and
Yeah.
it does for Kylo.
Yeah, and the horrible reminder, right? And this of what this power could potentially do. I just love the absolute horror that is played on Rey's face there in the Kylo moment, in the stabbing. I don't know, and
Yeah.
feeling Leia.
It's the greatest fear confirmed, right? It is.
Mhm.
I do have feelings for Kylo. I'm seeing him as just Kylo, as just an enemy, as just a symbol of what I don't want to be, as a symbol of everybody telling me what I have to be, and I'm just going to cut it out. I'm just going to destroy it. And I think there's that moment of seeing him as a person again, a person she's connected to, and then of course, obviously, Leia.
Yeah.
And this greatest fear confirmed of like that I will lash out and I will hurt the people I love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, moving on from the fun motivations.
Well, it just again highlights the wondrous depths that Star Wars can go, and it also at the same time being cool. Fight on the Death Star with water, which works both for me, and you can watch it all always at once or different times. But there's just I do like what you're talking about of it doesn't have to happen, kids. Sit down, talk it out. What are you
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah. And that lesson is there in other fights. I want to be really clear. I'm not saying this is the first time that lesson has been baked into a Star Wars fight. It's just kind of baked in a different way because I think the environment, the music, the
Yeah.
choreography, everything really supports the sadness of this fight. So let's talk a little bit about that, about how the environment makes a difference, how it helps tell the story, and the thrill factor of this fight. Where do you go with that?
I just think I see all of it, and the thrill moments. I'll have some specific thoughts on this, but to some of the specific screenshots, if you will. But it's a dangerous element where they're at, right? That you can't even get there. Yeah, the fact that Rey got there, they were supposed to wait till morning. She rushes out for that, and choppy waters, dangerous element, and it's something that can't really be controlled by either of them. The waves are going to do what waves are going to do, and they are in that. And it's a big, just, you talk about water and life, the life giver that water is. In this case, it is a destroyer, and it's just splashing down all over them. And I just thought that worked very well. Very well. You could have done this anywhere else, I guess, but I love choosing the Death Star, choosing the second Death Star, I should say, choosing the past, them fighting for the way forward away from that pass, and all around them is just this kind of rage-filled water.
Yeah, it's really, really powerful. I love ideas of water imagery. Water is so important because it can be life and it can be death, and I think it can be like the Force. It can be the light and the dark, and this water is definitely a version of the dark side. It's this great companion to the fury and fire and violence of Mustafar, right?
Yeah.
Here's this other representation of the dark side. Of this is what the dark side brings them to. It's cold, it's distant, it's suffocating. I totally agree with you. It's this like waves raging for nothing because it's just what they do. They just rage, they just crash, and it's kind of what's happening to them. They're just kind of raging and crashing for not a clear practical victory this isn't there's a physical MacGuffin. This isn't that there's literally a physical wayfinder between them, and they're both trying to get their hands on it. It's raging. And I think the water does so much for that story.
Yeah.
Of making you feel it. You can feel how cold that is, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then the Death Star ruins. It's not subtle, and it hasn't been subtle the entire sequel trilogy. I think it's fascinating that the
Yes.
sequel trilogy wants to deal with nostalgia, wants to deal with the inability to just kill the past and escape it. Of this idea of like you have to deal with it, reckon with it, take what you want, don't be defined by it,
Mm.
and move forward with the parts of the past that are valuable to you. And
Yeah.
the sequel trilogy came out in a moment where a lot of pop culture was dealing with nostalgia, and
Mhm.
that didn't go well for the sequel trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah.
In our larger pop culture conversations. But I think when you really just analyze outside of the moments that this film came out in,
Mm.
or these films, but this one in particular, it's so purposeful because
Yeah.
it's the wreck of the old war. They can't escape the past. I love the way you said that. In order to try to move forward, they have to keep going deeper into the past. And
Mhm.
Kylo, Mister, I want to kill the past, is kind of standing in this old throne room saying, turns out I am defined by my blood. I am defined by the choices I already made. I already made these choices, so I can never go back to my mom. I failed to kill the past. Still going to try to kill Palpatine on a
Yeah.
practical level, but like I'm submitting to the dark side. I'm submitting to the past. I'm submitting to everything that this wreckage represents, and I want you to submit to that too, Ray.
Yeah. Join me. Yeah. If you can't beat him, join him. Yeah.
Yep. And then you touched on this as well. I absolutely love for the thrill factor. The waves are cool.
Yeah.
The flipping's cool. The location is cool. I love it anytime. I always go on about high places. Like this is technically a high place with also horrible, crushing, drowning water everywhere. And with Finn and Jenna being unable to follow, it gives it this
Yeah.
even more kind of heightened mythic. This is like gods fighting on Mount Olympus that like other people can watch, but we can't get up there and intervene,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to look at it. Yeah, just again, and Ray fighting she's just fighting connections, the good, the bad, and the other. She's just fighting and pushing away at any point, and there's almost nothing they can do about that. She's gonna have to figure that out.
Yep. And she does. What realities of filmmaking do you think about when you watch this fight?
I do think just a great use of the past and the present, fun, inventive way to approach an old staple. And I think often about those Force Awakens concept art pieces with Rey diving on the Death Star ruins. And I love
Mm.
that JJ and company get to go back and kind of explore that. I just, it was always fun for me and kind of made sense even when we saw that first trailer, the Star Wars Celebration and the Palpatine laugh and the roll it again. But just seeing the Death Star there, right, was just like, oh, we're going to do this. And I thought about that concept art right away. So I just think that reality of just taking an idea and remolding it and figuring out a way to fit it into this story and in a way that works, in a way that's thematically true to the story. I think that comes across as well. And I love the BTS stuff of them. That great doc. Really, if y'all haven't checked it out, recommend it. They're the one that came out with Rise of Skywalker. Just the BTS stuff, both of them there, getting soaked. I think it was Adam Driver's birthday, and him just kind of, yep, this is what we're doing, and Daisy being a little like, you're actually hit me with the water. Just the experience of it there, it all makes it so real. And they didn't build a Death Star ruin in the desert, so there's or in the ocean, I should say, or the desert. But it just comes, it's visceral. You feel it all, and I just think some great filmmaking went into the sequence.
Yeah, no, I think about that doc a lot, and knowing that, we built these big chunks of Death Star ruins, obviously not in an ocean, but set up all the rigs to spray them with the real water. The absolute commitment of the actors. This is one of the best acted lightsaber fights, in my opinion. They're so in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get all of that commitment of fighting under actual torrents of water. I also think for me, for this one, we'll talk more about some favorite moments, but I think there is a real consciousness of doing something different, right? The leaps, the location, the score is different than from other lightsaber fights. It's not sweeping. There aren't choral voices, right? It's bare and haunting, and the stabs of music with Kylo's final blows. There's a real effort in all levels of filmmaking. All of the sound design around Leia reaching out to Ben, and we almost are hearing from Rey's perspective, where you can feel her being like distant and disconnected from everything, and then it rushes back in when the clarity of what she just did comes to her. There's so much quality filmmaking going on every level. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a giant sequence, man. Giant sequence, and to put it all together on so many pieces coming together. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Final thing for me is just in terms of filmmaking, storytelling, scripting, writing, being a part of filmmaking. I've talked about this before. Don't need to spend a bunch of time on it, but just the significance that this is the Act 2 closing. That's where the most traditional lightsaber battle is. And, lots of various opinions about what might have been if, maybe if Rian Johnson did this film, or if the Trevorrow one got made, all that. I always, when I watch it, just really, really appreciate the choice to have Ben face his final battle at the end of Act 2, so we can clearly give Ben his due and not make the end of the film all about will Kylo make a better choice. And then there's still plenty going on with Rey in this scene. There's still plenty going on with Ben at the end of the film. But in some ways, this fight being the Act 2 closing gives a little bit more of the focus to Ben, which leaves the end of the film to give a little bit more focus on Rey, so both characters truly get their due.
Yeah. No, we're talking about long, dark tea times of the soul, like the second acts, right? Yeah, this is definitely a bunch of tea being spilled here all over everyone here, and I love it. And like you said up top, again, it's a sad, somber fight in a lot of ways. The what ifs we can have fun with those, or we can be frustrated by those to the end of time. But what is and what remains is something that continues, to find meaning within me.
Yeah, no, and I think, as always, for anybody who doesn't work it doesn't work for them, or they don't like it, totally understand. I think just for me, one of the powers of this lightsaber fight is the choice of where to put it in the film functionally is done with great purpose, and it really, really works for me. So I always want to celebrate it.
Yeah. Party.
All right.
Celebrate the sadness.
Celebrate the sadness, our least popular t-shirt on TeePublic. Let's talk about favorite moments of thrill and emotion. What are some moments for you?
I just go towards the beginning there. There's a moment where Kylo's kind of ducking her blades before igniting his. And now it's funny. It makes me think of Reva and Vader in the Kenobi series. But I just like that. There's something about it, some energy there. Again, speaking kind of where he is in a lot of these fights, which sounds like I'm defending Kylo and attacking Rey for being aggressive. It's just what's going on. And he's there definitely to do what must be done. But I don't know. There's something fun about that little opening salvo.
Yeah, no, I feel like between this and the using the Force to block blades, this does set up the Vader Reva fight a lot. There's a clear connection. The first moment I love is the leaps down into the pit. They're both so distinctive. Like, for me, it's one of those. Yeah, you two didn't have to go so hard on the leaps, but you did, and I really appreciate it. The Kylo's little foot knock together as he falls, and Rey's got that real big knee up leap, and I just love them both.
Yes, she does that. You're right. Oh, that's so funny. Yes, love it.
You can always tell who a character is by the way they leap into a pit. What are some other moments for you?
Going to the first big wave that's coming in. They're both kind of looking at it. They both, I think, because she's kind of got the angle on it first, so you see her kind of react, but he turns around, and I don't know. It's like George Clooney in a commercial fishing boat looking up at a tidal wave. It's terrified, and just again, they both cannot stop what is happening to them in this moment. It is getting out of control. It is dangerous, and this wave coming at them, and they're both like, yeah. Damn it. I don't know. It's a dark thrill, but I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole first wave sequence is great. I love Rey's force push of Finn. I love that she just shouts no, right? And for me, that's about like, don't come anywhere near me. Don't come anywhere near this. I will hurt you. Whether I mean to or not, it's just very powerful. And then just seeing him, I love that the way it's acted, the sound effects. It's a big force push, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
No, go ahead, please.
Well, you said some things there of just like how to look at the force push. It's not Rey saying, no, stay away. I got this. I need you safe. It's like, stay away. I don't got this. I'll probably hurt you. Like, get out of it and fight in that connection.
Yeah, you're so right to point out that she's fighting her connection to Kylo. She's fighting her connection to Finn. She's really, this so much of this film is about stronger together, and she's being really, really alone right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I love all the leaps. I know they don't work for some people and that they are too superhero. And again, I hear that. I respect that. I love them. In one of the shots I particularly love is, we see Rey's leap, and that's cool. But then to see Kylo's tiny little form flying into a wave from Finn and Janna's perspective.
I wrote that down too, of specifically them watching it. I love it.
Yeah, because it's like the total, like, obviously Janna's being very kind to Finn. They've had their bond, and Janna's like, sure, yeah, no, we'll go after her. Got it, totally, of course. And then there's that real, like, there could have been a comedy beat where Janna turns and goes, well, we can't follow them. I mean, she does say we can't follow them. It's not in a comedy beat, but there's a real, like, okay, we can keep up. No, we can't keep. Like, did you see? He's tiny, and that wave is so huge. And where do you even go?
Yeah. And in terms of, I do like the leaps myself. And look, I mean, like I think Rey literally does like a superhero landing, right? And I don't think it's necessarily that on purpose, but it definitely comes off as that, at least to me. I don't know what your thoughts on that are, but so I can get it. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm a Return of the Jedi kid. Like Luke's leap was always awesome to me as a kid, and it doesn't hold up for me as much just the way it looks. It's very much a 1983 stunt to me. Still cool, but so it's almost like this one of like, hey, let's just build on that. We can look at what we can do now, and so if it works for me on that level, as well as also what it means and feels.
Yeah, that's the thing for me, is it's just like these are two extremely powerful force users, and I like that there's lots in here that is trying to kind of like up the ante, right? If they are powers large enough for like Luke and Palpatine to be like, they are very powerful. They don't even know their own power. That I like seeing that represented, and what's physically happening is them isolating from Finn and Janna, flying up to the mountaintop where other beings can't even follow, and also just being sort of like mindless of like, our fight just needs to continue, and a giant crushing wave is we'll just leap over it and keep going, is great. Yeah. So another moment for me is I like in that it's kind of second phrase right before the second wave comes, when Rey slams Kylo's blade into the floor. It's a nice aggressive move. Yeah. Kylo often does a little floor stab and a block, so I like that she's doing that to him. It's reminiscent of their first fight as well. But then when she sees the wave coming, and she's got that great energetic sort of pull away, and then stick the lightsaber up to like fly. I'm sure some people don't like that because it's a superhero-y thing, but I love it. That sticking the lightsaber up and like following that energy up into the flip. I love it.
Yeah, no, I don't mind that one at all. Yeah. No, I love it. I'm there for it. Yeah, I think there's some, I did notice there's some weird, not even weird, but just some editing beats that might've came off, I don't know, a little different for me than others. That's why I think I love the first fight in terms of editing a little bit better, but it's so big. It's such a big scene. I just love all that stuff. High energy stuff.
Yeah. High energy. And I love the contrast too, then when, we don't see Kylo walk, leap over that wave. He just walks through it.
So yeah, that's Kylo sauntering out of the wave, and then kind of positioning his lightsaber kind of downward, and then taking that backward swing with it. It's a little bit of the trailer moment, right? Him walking out. You're kind of waiting for it, but it delivered. I just like everything about it, because there's a strength, there's a power, but there's also a little bit of just why are we doing this resignation to what's going on, and then let me go finish this, and whatever that means to him at that time. Kylo could speak to it, but there's a lot to it, and it also just in terms of Star Wars villain shot, pretty darn cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great trailer shot. It's I'm glad that they used it in the trailer, but it does just have this awesome storytelling to me of he's not charging through it screaming, right? He's just sort of like walking almost in this Terminator way of like I'm disconnected from emotion and nothing is going to stop me.
Yeah.
I'm just plowing forward. And for Rey, right, there's that almost like there's that moment of it, did he make it through? And she is trying to not submit to this by submitting to it, by lashing out, and him walking through of it's just like, yeah, no, that image is what he's saying to her of the dark side is just going to keep coming for you. You can't deny it. It's just going to keep coming. Nothing's going to stop it. Did you think it was gone? It's not.
It's not. Did you try to wash it away with the water? Still here.
Yeah. And then there is after that amazing shot where he walks through the water kind of toward the camera, there's a little profile shot where he does just kind of a little great Adam Driver bouncy step over something like he's late to a meeting. And it's really great.
Love that.
What are some other moments for you?
I think one of the final big ones for me is I think it was Rey slides her saber up and it like hits his cross guard. It's like 2014 called, and it's apologizing because that is cool. I just love a great use of it.
Yeah, there's that phrase right near the end where she tries switching handholds, right? And goes to the backwards handhold, and they have a great phrase of locking blades, and Kylo's really calm and resolute, and he flips it around, and it's not going to do anything for her.
Mm-hmm.
I do love the exchange of using the Force to block the blades. Is that something that you like, or is that too different for you? Where do you land on that one?
No, I mean, come on, Kylo's. We meet him blocking laser bolts, so I absolutely all of that kind of tracks, and it's something that look. If I have the Force and I'm in a fight, I think I do that every time.
Yeah,
I don't want that blade hitting me. Stop you.
Absolutely. And then once again, sets up the Vader Reva battle. I'm not sure that's not what the intention was at the time.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see new ideas be introduced and then layered into Star Wars.
Totally.
Final thing for me is that I love that the stab of Kylo is so empty, right? When she catches, I love the nice straightforward symbolism that it's her catching his blade, the red blade, using the red blade.
Yeah.
And then that there's no sound, right? There's no sense that that's a victory.
Yeah.
There's not even emotion from Kylo. There's no scream of pain. It's he just stumbles and falls back. It's just muted and awful. And you've talked about this before, Ken, and you have more firsthand knowledge than I do of real life violence. But it's just a moment that steps away from fantasy and steps away from the way we visually tell the story of violence a lot of times in cinema, and makes it a little bit more real world, right? Like real life violence is not cinematic. There isn't a cool, there isn't a cool noise. There isn't, a needle drop. It's, sometimes big, awful violence. You barely see it, right? It's just this little horrible thing that happens, and then something that was there isn't anymore.
Yeah, and a lot more sweating and panting than you think in the movies. It is very real. It's very raw, and you're right. It is because if you, let's say you spoiled the beat just on paper going into Rise of Skywalker, and then Rey stabs Kylo right in the center of his heart or his body with a lightsaber, you're gonna be like, oh, what a climactic moment. And what you're describing is the exact opposite of that. It is nothing. It is the sounds around it. It is not a big music cue. It is painful. It is small. I love your description of that. It's very real, and it's just telling you that, number one, more to come, but also this ain't the victory that we all wanted for her and that she thought she'd get. It's coming from a different point, a different blade even. You're absolutely right, and I thought it was a well done stab.
Yeah, it tells a story, and I just really like the choice, because you could have played up this whole fight. It is thrilling and it is exciting, but then within that, it is also just not afraid to let it feel cold and distant and heartbreaking.
Yeah, and it being tied to Leia and everything. Yeah, that was heartbreaking. It's absolutely the word.
Yeah. So at the end of this battle, how do you think the galaxy is changed by this big climactic lightsaber battle?
I once made like a flow chart here in my notes here, but it's like, all right, so how is the galaxy changed? Well, I think, and including a little bit of the Han stuff, Kylo Ren is dead, and he's dead, and that's good. But Where does Ben go from here? He's still got to find his place. Leia is gone. Rey has run away. The dark side overall has a clear path to victory because hope and symbols of hope have been removed, have been hidden, or they're on the run, or they're confused at best. Hard truths have been revealed. They've been shared, and the process of healing has begun, though. So that's where a little bit of the light side is shining through. And we are set up for all of this to come forward. It's just people got to believe. People got to accept. People got to realize they're not alone. They got to realize they have the power. They realize they can get the help from those around them, and they can be who they maybe really are supposed to be, or who they want to be, which is perhaps most important, especially even for Ben. I think he wants to be Ben. He just felt he could no longer could. I think Rey wants to be this not hero, but she wants to be, connected. She wants to be a Jedi. She wants to take the empathy she has in her heart and compassion and put it out in the galaxy. And the path is clear. They just got to get there. So the galaxy is set up for victory, but it's in perhaps its darkest point at this time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I really love that this is the all is lost moment, but there is a victory in it, right? This is a absolute victory from Leia, right? To reach out and just let her son feel like you were wrong. You could have always come home. You can still come home,
Yeah.
Cool. And I think that is, it's a several step process, but I think that is a moment where, Ben is reborn, this water that is symbolic of the dark side and symbolic of, just crushing rage. It calms down by the time Han is there and becomes a little soothing, a little amniotic. It's a little peaceful, right?
Yeah.
And so that transportation happens. On a practical level, I do like that this moment ends up being a victory for Leia, and Palpatine needs to move on to Plan B. He's got the great line of the Princess Valderon, foiled by Plaid. That this has been Palpatine's, long game. Sure, he wanted to get his hands on Rey early on, but she was lost to him, and now she's all in with the Jedi, and she's a risk. So he just wants her gone, and he's had this long game to slowly break Ben Solo, and he's right at the edge of the victory, and Leia and Ben and Rey take it from him.
Yeah, I love that Princess Valderon line. We could talk about that another time, and I think we will. But and all of it, talking again about how the galaxy changed. There's this theme that keeps coming up in these movies and around these characters, right? Of just like you have the pieces. They're all right there. You're just not seeing it. And there's a lot of darkness, a lot of brokenness at the end of this fight. But it's, again, setting it all up. And I like that you call it it's a moment of victory for Leia. It is. Yeah. As tragic as it is and sad as it is.
Yeah. And even though Rey, I think, doesn't see it in the moment, that she ends this by, that great line of, I did want to take your hand, Ben's hand. But then she, goes away. I think she feels her greatest fear is realized that I can't handle this power. I will just continue the cycle of violence, just like Luke was afraid he would. So I'm going into the island. We get all that story. But I think that the galaxy has maybe changed because she does make a better choice, right? She is immediately horrified by what she's done. And she's been in this place of anger and exhaustion and frustration. She's trying to use hate to deny hate, right? She's fighting what she hates. She hates being told that she has no choice and that she is of the dark side. So she lashes out in fury. And this whole thing is a real, Rose Tico fighting what you hate to saving what you love. She's fighting what she hates. And then, realizing that that's not the way to go. Violence wasn't going to resolve this for her. Empathy, mercy, connection, as you keep saying. And I have to think, like, after the fact, when Rey thinks about this moment, this is a moment that she's forever changed, right? Of like, I feel in my bones what it's like to give into the dark side. I know what that feels like, and I know what it's like to choose to lead with the light side. Like, I have to think the galaxy has changed. Like, this is a real teachable moment for Rey to pass on to the next generation of Jedi.
She puts in the videotape. Get out the telestrator. Let me show you what I did wrong here.
Yeah, exactly. So out of 10 lightsabers fully ignited, How many lightsabers do you personally give this fight?
I think I might stop the recording and go watch one more time to make sure. I'm going high. I'm going 9.5. Nearly perfect for me. Nearly perfect for me. Only because maybe I don't get to have a complete fist pumping moment because there's a somberness that hangs over it. But in terms of fight and a fight I want to revisit, and a fight that, again, I think there's so much there, and I'd love to. We always, again, respecting opinions aside and everything, but there's just some situations in life outside of podcasting where you or I or other Star Wars people and fans are like, you want to sit people down and explain what's there, or at least just, hey, show them, and maybe you'll see the movie in a different way. Maybe you'll never like it, but maybe you'll see what I see and see what I feel, and feel what I feel the emotions. And this is one of those sequences that I would love to discuss and do like to.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love what you said and how you said it. For me, this is a 9 out of 10. This is one of the best because it is thrilling. It is fun. It is a space fantasy, but it is not afraid to be a different kind of lightsaber fight.
Yeah.
And it's a different mood. It's a different emotion. It is complex and layered and exciting and horrible all at the same time. And all of the ideas of the sequel trilogy really, really coming together in this fight. And I so agree with you. I think, there are a lot of strong opinions about the sequel trilogy, like all of Star Wars, but parts of Rise of Skywalker, I almost feel more like my prequel conversations of like, totally get anybody who's just plain old never going to like them. They just don't enjoy them, or they just don't enjoy Rise of Skywalker. Love Last Jedi, don't enjoy Rise of Skywalker. Opinion is the first part of the discussion. If your opinion is not for me, then you are correct. So be it.
Yeah.
But I feel almost in that same prequel way of like, cool. If a viewer could say, I don't like these 7 things, and go, okay, now I'm going to watch the rest of the movie and ignore those things and focus on what else is there that I maybe haven't focused on before. Is there a possibility that you could find more things to love? Like we've so long had prequel conversations like that. And I feel that way about this fight of like, cool. If you don't like Palpatine, if you don't like, X, Y, or Z, could you look at this fight and try to see some of the things that we see, and maybe, the hope that people would get to enjoy it more.
Yeah. And this comes out of, like, again, if your opinion, what it is and everything, but sometimes folks come at it real hard and ask for the engagement, right? And then ask for, well, why? And this is one of those moments, scenes and fights that I do want to go, well, here's why. And here's what is there. Here's what I find there. And again, it's not just there's what is there and then what I take from it. And those can be different for all of us. But I don't react well to, well, there's nothing there. And that's where this fight is one of those, like, there's something there. Let me talk to you about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot there. I would think that at least the length of our podcast would convince people that there's plenty to discuss, even if it's not for everybody. It certainly is for us. We rate this one high. Next time on the Magic of Lightsaber Fights, I don't know exactly how we're going to construct this conversation yet, but Ken and I were talking off air, and we both felt like it's worth talking about the final conflict in Rise of Skywalker, because it is not a straight up lightsaber fight, but there's so much going on with the ideas of lightsabers, with what they symbolically mean, everything from the Rey to Kylo pass to the fact that there are 2 of them, all that kind of stuff. Maybe structured a little bit differently, because it's not, the last 20 minutes of that film isn't just a straight up lightsaber fight, but we do want to discuss the ideas of what lightsabers mean and how they play into the final battle of Rise of Skywalker. Any thoughts on that, Ken, before we go?
You said it, the symbolism of lightsabers in this Star Wars story, specifically the Skywalker saga, are very much on display. And I do agree. We're going to figure out how to discuss it. And if anyone wants to yell at us and say, that's not a lightsaber fight, maybe I guess you're right. But it's definitely a lightsaber conflict. It's definitely something going on there that's pretty big for the saga. And it does, does ask to be looked at, I think.
Yeah, it is how lightsabers are used in the final fight of the Skywalker saga. So we are excited to dive into that, and then we'll see where the future takes us when it comes to lightsaber fighting. Ken, you want to let people know where they can find us?
Yeah, absolutely. We're the Force Center Podcast. We're on Twitter at Force Center Pod. We're on Instagram and YouTube as well. Live Q&A coming up. Well, if you're listening on the morning of this episode release later today, but just look for the live Q&As by subscribing to our channel. Hit the notification bell. You will find out. Facebook page is Force Center Podcast. Podcast available on Acast, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/Force Center. You can also go to patreon.com/ForceCenter if you'd like to support us directly from there. You can get into our Discord server, discuss Star Wars every day with Force Center friends. You can follow me at Napzok or go to KenNapzok.com for more information. If you are local, big show for me on September 2nd, part of the Flappers anniversary show in the Yoo-Hoo Room, one of the more underrated rooms in the LA comedy scene. Going to be there for one of their anniversary shows on September 2nd. Information and tickets can be tracked down via my website at KenNapzok.com. Joseph, what about you?
Yeah, I would encourage people to go see that. I really like that Yoo-Hoo Room. It has got a good, intimate energy. So I think people should go see you there. I would go see you, but I'm seeing John Williams at the Hollywood Bowl that night. Also in intimate room.
Yes,
outside.
Good to know in case I get tickets to that. I won't get them. Yeah, good to know. Okay.
Excellent. You want to follow my adventures? You can find me on social media. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok is at Joseph Scrimshaw. Go to my website, josephscrimshaw.com, for all my other stuff, past comedy albums, stuff like that. Maybe future comedy albums. We'll see. If you are in the Portland area, I am locking down the details, but I'm going to be in Portland the weekend of October 7th through the 9th for the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival. I have a short film that I made, a short cosmic horror dark comedy that is playing at that film festival. So I'll get some information up and out about that. But for now, for myself, for Ken, for Water, this has been Force Center.